just it is just now starting to bring it up on YouTube Live, so we aren't officially start. You don't have to start it for another couple seconds anyway.
Thank you, Mark.
Absolutely. My heart goes out to you, Kathleen.
Thank you very
Absolutely.
much.
100%.
I just thought it's better if I keep busy.
I understand completely. That makes perfect sense. And I'm more than happy to cover for you. And we've got a big night. So
yes, we do.
I've got to keep it going.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Okay, YouTube did start, so you can go whenever you would like to.
Okay. Thanks everybody for joining us tonight. We've got a big agenda for this evening, a page and a half if everybody saw. So we've got a lot to go through. So, let's try to keep things moving as crisply as we can. So we're going to start the meeting with the Records Commission meeting and the agenda. So I need a call to order.
Let's see, Barb.
Here.
Harold.
Here.
Tracy.
She was having trouble with her mic.
Oh, okay. Karen.
Yes, here.
Mark, you're here.
Yes.
Sue.
Yes.
And Kathleen.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, any public participation that anybody sees? I'm looking. I don't see any.
We had no requests to address the board, so from that end, there's no active participation.
Thank you, Ms. Lynn.
You're welcome.
Then we need a motion to approve the disposal of records, which I believe Lynn had attached.
I move.
I'll second.
Barb.
Yes.
Harold.
Yes.
Kathleen.
Yes.
Karen.
Yes.
Mark.
Yes.
Sue.
Yes.
And Tracy.
Yes.
Any other business for the Records Commission? No? Okay. Next meeting will be announced to be determined. And I think we can go ahead and bring the meeting for the Records Commission to a close. So now we will move on to the regular Brown County Public Library Board meeting. So I'll need a call to order, please.
Barb.
Yes.
Harold.
Yes.
Tracy.
Yes.
Karen.
Yes.
Kathleen.
Here.
And Sue.
Yes.
Is there any public participation? Lynn, are you showing anything?
Not a thing.
Okay, thank you. On to approval of the minutes of the September 16th, 2020 regular meeting. And there is a note there for, we need a motion to amend motion 61-20 to read a cost not to exceed 16,000.
If you need any explanation, it was my misestimating what it would cost for the laptops to help us establish remote work settings for our staff members. So it was just a little bit more than we had originally anticipated.
All right, I will need a motion, please.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Who was the first? Sorry.
I'll make the motion, Sarah. Sue.
Thank you. And then Kathleen.
Second.
Okay. Barbara,
Yes.
Harold,
Yes.
Kathleen,
yes,
Karen,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Tracy,
Yes.
and Sue.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, Lynn, on to correspondence.
Okay, if my mouse will turn me off of mute, we'll get going here. Typical things happened in correspondence this month and some not so typical. Public Library Fund was just over $106,000 to the county. And our share was just under $66,000. I look at the overall revenues and had been estimating that if we brought in $60,000 to $65,000 per month each month the rest of the year, we would easily meet and exceed what we had anticipated getting for revenue from the PLF. So we are looking really good as far as that's concerned. And overall, we're just slightly under, the PLF is just slightly under the original estimates that were made back in July of 2019 that our budget is actually based upon. So that's pretty good. The second item, one of the announcements that you may have remember reading is that our youth team members are presenting to the County Educational Service Center's Teacher in Service next week. No, sorry.
no, this Friday.
This Friday, that's correct, this Friday. And they, led by Megan Stewart, they have done a great job of putting together some pre-recorded and live. They will be doing some Zoom live instruction as well. And when Stephanie Wagner of the ESC reviewed those materials, she was just, I think, astounded. She used wow with all capital letters and 3 exclamation points in responding to that content. So I think we all need to be very proud of our youth team, specifically for putting that together, but also of this organization for being able to pivot and provide important support services to our community, even in the conditions that we've had since earlier, the beginning of the year. We wrote a letter of support to Swan Libraries because they are applying for an LSTA grant for engagement and outreach opportunities. I have not heard about that. I really don't know the time frame of the grant, but we're trying to do our part by supporting them. And then on behalf of the library and the trustees, I received a letter from Ohio Library Council. It's their typical kind of end of the year. Thank you very much for paying for OLC memberships and we pay for our associates and office administrators and the management team for their memberships. And it's probably as much a marketing tool so that we'll continue to do it next year as well. But it's nice to know that they see that the library supports the education and growth of its staff members. And then as far as what's been going on with the Ohio Library Council, what's new is that a House Bill number 773 has been given to the representatives, and this actually would provide for supplemental public library funding. The idea is that this would be an additional piece of legislation. So on top of the PLF legislation that exists now, it would add 0.33% of the GRF to whatever also exists for PLF money. So for example, right now we're at 1.7, if I'm not mistaken, or did it go back to 1.66 on July 1st? But it would add 0.33 to that base. So the anticipation is that there will be no movement on this, in this term right now, because people are not doing much other than campaigning. And so it will be interesting to see how this moves throughout the legislature after they come back and are active. We have seen in the past some what they call Christmas tree legislation, where a lot of stuff gets thrown into it, underneath the tree, on the tree, and it gets passed at the end of the year. I don't know if the circumstances of this year are going to change that kind of a traditional, let's get some things pushed through before the new year. So that will be interesting to see as well. It was interesting to see a couple of weeks ago that Ohio Library Council took the opportunity to address the whole COVID-19 and the statewide mask mandate issue. I suspect they have been receiving any number of questions and comments from public libraries around the state. And they made it very clear that this is not to be a point of confrontation. We are not the mask enforcers, but we do need to approach people. And we were fortunate to receive a very opportune training. Ryan Dowd, I believe, was the presenter who talked about how to handle those kinds of approaches without being confrontational, and to get people to either buy in or at least live up to our expectations while they're with us. So that was helpful for us. I think that primarily in October, people were so busy. Was somebody going to say something? Maybe that was my only paper making noise. Census was extended to October 31, so there's a little extra time for that. It's time for E-rate workshops, so I'll be doing one of those next week, so we can find out where we can perhaps get some more rebates on our internet service. The Bureau of Workers' Comp is going to be doing another dividend distribution. I don't know if Sarah has heard or seen anything come our way yet. They were not terribly specific this time about amounts of money, but there won't be any distributions next year. They have made that very clear, since they've given back all the money in the past year. And just a note, because we are drawing closer to the end of the year, the state did some temporary loosening of public meetings regulations, so that in the age of COVID, we could all get together as we are right now remotely. And technically, that is supposed to end either at the end of December or when the emergency declaration is rescinded. And I've been not spending every minute waiting and listening for these announcements, but I have heard nothing so far. I don't think anybody's ready to make a call at this point. I would hope that maybe by our November meeting, we'll know something more specific about being able to continue conducting our meetings this way. I will say that we spent some of our CARES Act grant money on a camera, speakers, microphone setup, so that we can actually conduct our meetings in combination. We can accommodate people actually in a room, socially distanced, but be able to broadcast what's going on in the room and have people participate by Zoom as well. So we just opened the boxes for those, so I was not ready to try it out tonight, but we will be seeing how that works, and maybe by November, at least Sarah and I can be at the ends of a long table in the same place and see how that works. And that's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Lynn. We're going to go on to the financial report now with Miss Sarah.
It's hard to believe it's mid-October already, and I've been doing this for a year. October was my first board meeting alone. Appropriation summary. Our month-to-date expenditures were about 91,000. About 50,000 of that was salaries, 15,000 benefits, purchases, contract services around 12,000, library materials and supplies right at around 15,000. Bank reconciliation. We had a huge month for receipts. Obviously, we received that $100,000 check, and then with PLF, our receipts were around 191,000. We paid 105,000 in payments, and then we had one adjustment was a payment from our Fayetteville friends. Our bank balances, our People's Bank ended up with at $717,000. Our First State 3,300, and then our Star Ohio was at 325,000. Outstanding payments, your report, all have cleared that list except for 2 at the moment. Our cash flow, pretty much talked about all this. Our PLF was around 76,668. We did receive some property tax and homestead money around 10,500, kind of low, less than we anticipated, I think, for that. Other receipts, that's where I included that $100,000 check for the COVID relief.
Sarah, I did have a question about that. Was it receipted directly into general, or was it receipted directly into the special fund?
You're right. It was straight into 2801.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought that made it look like we had a whole lot more money.
Yeah,
There
that
you
was
go.
that was my mistake. I'll fix that.
Okay. I didn't see it go back out anywhere,
Yeah,
and that's
yeah.
why I thought, okay. Thank you.
Sorry about that. So I talked about our expenditures. We were at $105,364 for September. Fund balance is right over $1 million, so that's amazing. Our expenditure reconciliation report, the spreadsheet that I put together, our payments were at $44,860. Both of our payrolls for the month right around 50,000. Our OPERS, our retirement was at 6,663. The board share for Medicare was at 675. And then our health insurance, 4,600. We paid our third quarter local taxes. That's what that number is. And then our health insurance is what the employee pays. So our total expenditures was 105,364. Payment listing. Any questions about those payments? Felt like I did a lot of checks in September, sorry.
Just a general, the negative adjustments that go back to March, those are all the CARES money, correct?
Yep. We started making that list will be much bigger at the next meeting because I've been transferring a lot of money back and forth. So fund summary, open POs at the moment is 115,000. If you'll notice, we have a new fund. It's called the Coronavirus Relief. It's 2801. That's almost 40,000 of our open POs. And then in the general, we have about 65,000. And then it was the end of the quarter for September, so I put together a recap for the quarter. I had a typo when I went back to make some notes. So there is, as of yesterday, and Dropbox and updated one of these. Wanted to point it out. I'll point out the typo when I get to it. So our beginning cash balance was 864,000. Our public library fund through September was 596,685. So that's down from last year, only about $5,000. So I think it was almost to the penny actually. So we're hanging in there. Homestead and rollback, we're up about 70,000 from last year. We got a huge deposit in March, I believe. So that's really padded that. So we're at 610,000. Services from other entities, we're up about 7,000 for that one. Receipts, about the same, just slightly less. Transfers in, that's where I put that $100,000 for the CRF. Let's see. General fund expenditures, were down for salaries like we would have predicted because of the furlough. Our benefits are also down, which is what I would anticipate. Library materials and services, those are also down about 12,000. Capital outlay down from last year. And our operating expenditures, that's where I had a typo. Somehow I ended up with the same number from last year. I must have copied and pasted. But our total expenditures are 134,596, and that's also down. So what we tried to do when we furloughed and we're cutting expenses, as you can see from this quarterly report, we definitely did. So any questions?
I would just like to point out that the library materials and interlibrary loan services, the reduction in that is not due to the fact that we're not buying as many materials. We've actually, I think, really upped our expenditures on electronic resources, particularly, but we never stopped buying books or other print materials. But because our interlibrary loan system was canceled for a good amount of time, we actually got a reduction in cost for that. So we did not end up paying for those months that we did not receive service. So that's I think, a good portion of the reason for
Yeah,
that.
absolutely.
Any other questions? Miss Sarah, thank you very much and
You're welcome.
congratulate you on your 1-year anniversary. You're
Thanks.
right, time flies, no question. We've got two motions that we've got to tackle here. I need a motion to accept financial and investment reports, approve paid bills, and accept donations for August.
Nope, not August. Sorry, my goof, September.
What the heck? Okay, September. Lynn. I need a motion.
I'll move.
I'll
Second,
second.
Barb,
Yes.
Harold,
yes.
Kathleen,
Yes.
Karen,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Tracy,
Yes.
and Sue.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, I need a motion to approve appropriations for Fund 2802 CARES County. Looks like we have, if I'm reading that correct, oh, there's actually 6 of them. 322 dash, do I have to read all those, Lynn?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, those, we got $25,000 from the county and CARES funds. So this basically just says, okay, we've got some expenditure lines, we can spend the money out of it. And I did my best to estimate where we would spend the money.
okay, thank you. I'll need a motion.
I'll move.
Move. I'll second.
Barb,
Yes.
Harold,
Yes.
Kathleen,
Yes.
Karen,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Tracy,
Yes.
and Sue.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. On to the librarians report with Miss Lynn. Building report and statistics for September.
So you have some managers who are here participating with you tonight. So I will defer any questions you might have about specific items on the building report to the managers. What are your thoughts? What questions do you have for them?
So we're meeting outside on the front lawn for the adult book club. How about that? And that's Mary P. Shelton. How's that working out? Do we have a manager?
Oh, it's working well, and they like it, and we've had great weather so far for both meetings. They had another one today, so it's working well.
So is it the outdoor social distancing, masks, and
Yes.
people seem to be okay with that?
Yes.
That's awesome. Okay, great. Thank you.
With Fayetteville, we've actually, our book club, we've met our last two meetings, like a month ago, and then maybe a Thursday, a week and a half ago, or something like that. But we're outside and we're 6 feet apart distance. But it's nice because we get to discuss the book we're reading, and it's worked out very well. I just added that.
Since none of the other managers are speaking up at the moment, I will say that one of the things that they've all been doing yeoman's work for this month is implementing the feeding program for the fall. We are fortunate to partner with Children's Hunger Alliance to help provide those meals. But we also, because we are partnering and are really just a distribution center and helping to make connection with the public and the patrons, we do not have a lot of say about the actual guidelines of the program. And those seem to have been fired like buckshot out of out of a gun, and then they reloaded and had some other kind of caliber in there. So it's been a challenge. They've had to change in the middle of a week and then we weren't told things. So kudos to the managers and their staff members for continuing to roll out that program, which, I think we all believe at some level is very necessary, and we're glad to participate in it. But we really wish that the authorities at some level would listen more directly to the people who are on the ground rolling this out about what really works.
Any other questions? Anyone?
Yeah, well, unless they're forced, I don't think they're going to talk. So we'll move on to statistics.
Well, I did notice, Lynn, in the Sardinia branch, we need to end the coronavirus. I did see that because it's a little bit of a struggle with the connecting of people. I did see that. That's pretty obvious.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, that's Ginny's sense of humor. She's the one who brings the hats to all the managers' meetings, the HAT, how are things? And she always has a very unique hat to show us. So that's the kind of humor that you come to expect. Yes.
Absolutely. Okay, then on to announcements, Lynn. No other questions then?
Yeah, or statistics. If anybody
I'm sorry,
wants to
statistics.
look at numbers. I mean, we don't have to because, there's not much to compare these numbers with, but I will say that we are using the format that we kind of rolled out last month, and we we tweaked it a little bit for you. So we are not comparing ourselves with last year, but we are giving you not only monthly totals, but we are also giving you year-to-date totals, just so you can kind of see that. We figure that's probably the best we can do at this point in time. We did break out some of the circulation numbers. So the hoopla and overdrive, those numbers, for example, you got some additional sheets for, so that you could actually see comparisons with the last year, because those are places where circulation is really increasing. No surprise, it's electronic. And I think once people discovered those services, they found out how much they really liked them, how easy they are to use. And so they're continuing to use those services. If you had any questions about the number of materials discarded, our friends groups did have fall book sales. The spring ones they were not able to have. We were all on shelter in place at that time. And so they did longer extended book sales. And I think that at least several of the branches, friends groups, were very pleasantly surprised at the outcome, that they were well attended, and it was worth their time financially to conduct those sales. Also, you'll find the number of electronic library cards, that's very near the bottom, has grown tremendously. We've got some teachers of 4th grade classes, I think specifically in the Mount or Western Brown School District area, that wanted their students to get library cards so they could use electronic resources. So we pushed out a whole lot of those, and I believe there's some other school districts that have also done the same. So we may see more of those numbers in next month's report. And curbside delivery continues to be very popular. You know, this is one of those places where if you had real questions or doubts about it, the managers have seen firsthand what the response is by the patrons about being able to still utilize our resources, but not necessarily having to come into a public building. So that's something that we do not see going away anytime soon, and we'll just keep tabs on it. And our chat service as well, there's a detailed page in your packet about the chat as well. We do look at the transcripts, and one of the things I noticed this time from our samples was we need to be careful about using library jargon when trying to explain things to our patrons. So we'll continue to look at that and update our training for that as needed. And if there aren't any questions about the numbers, we can move on to the announcements. That, like the agenda, was a long list because even though it seemed like it should have been short, with September being a shorter month, October always seems busy for libraries, and I thought it would slow down in the age of COVID, but no, it really didn't. Heather was treated on Monday to a visit from the fire department. We had heard some months ago that they were going to start doing building inspections, but we kind of all forgot about that, and then she got a call, and there it was. But other than needing to replace some ceiling tiles with watermarks, that was good. So to other managers, you might just want to keep in mind that your fire departments are still out there and maybe calling you to actually do building inspections. I won't go over the kinds of things that we're doing by going out in the communities, and really what you see under number 2 on the list is just mostly what I'm more involved in, and doesn't even take into account what our staff and managers are doing from their buildings. I've talked about most of number 3, but wanted to remind you that even though it may not all be here in the buildings, we are doing our seasons reading program, and they are planning for Santa Shop. And I don't know if I've coined a term by saying something can be COVIDized, but it's there anyway. So we will tweak our Santa Shop so that everything is safe for people to do their shopping. And Staff Development Day is also going to look a little bit different, and I've had that on the list as well, but this time you've got the actual dates that each branch will be doing their programs. And I see also, I don't know, maybe my cat interrupted me while I was writing or something, but 4C should have said training sessions to include a TED Talk, chair yoga, and a state of the library address. So sorry about that. Another Lynn made a gaffe there. So, and you do have, not to put Tanya on the spot, but if you have any questions about Staff Development Day, Tanya is our staff development coordinator and has been working very hard to organize and transition this event where we usually all get together in one building and make it work in smaller units within each of the branches. So either now or later, feel free to reach out to Tanya if you have questions about how that's going on. But she and her team are doing a fantastic job. We've got a strong leader on that team. Grants. Okay, you saw some of the money, and actually, even though we haven't spent most of it, the big batch of money, the $100,000 that came directly from the state, about 80% of those funds are already encumbered. So we are managing to spend the money appropriately. And then the $25,000 from the county, that also falls into the same time frame. We have to spend the money by the end of the year. So you've got a couple of things farther on the agenda that are related to that category. I already talked about number 6 and our fabulous youth team. And then number 7, one of those resources that we're putting some funds into are the Brain Fuse products. And if you have not recently been to our website, I encourage you to go there and to check this out for yourself. There is a component called Help Now that is geared towards students of all ages, and we're talking college all the way down through primary, with digital resources, but also test preparation and help me out here, writing reviews, so you can submit an essay and have it critiqued, and real-time tutoring that's available from 2 p.m. to 11 p.m. 7 days a week. Okay. Wasn't sure if I was going to get the timing right. And then Job Now, its kind of partner module, is for job seekers, and it has the same kinds of things: skills building, digital resources, resume writing assistance, and actual interview coaching. So this is a resource. These are resources that we want to really get the word out. We first rolled it out slowly so our own staff could be ready to address questions, but we are marketing the Help Now to the teachers at the in-service. So I anticipate that it will start to get used very heavily, but free with your library card. So we're really, I'm particularly proud of our staff for identifying this as something that's going to be very helpful to our community and a resource that we can provide to them. A nice thing is that, I guess is it nice? Is it not good? The minimum wage has been changed as of January 1. It's going up only 10 cents an hour, but then of course inflation hasn't increased dramatically. But Personnel Committee, this does have longer term implications for our salary structure. So we do need to figure out a way to get together and talk about plans for that. And then the consortium, the Swan Consortium, actually reduced everyone's dues this year because they knew that many libraries would be hurt financially by the economic downturn. So we had a 20% discount in our dues for our regional library system, which is just, I thought that was a fabulous model, and I'm glad that they are able to manage financially to be able to do that for their membership. I'll be presenting at the entrepreneurship seminar next week on behalf of the chamber. And then Tanya got to add to her local history and genealogy library by adding some bound volumes of the News Democrat. That was one of the times I'm not so sure that, rubbing elbows with the commissioners is always a good thing, because they go, oh, the library would like to have these, wouldn't they? When can you come get them? So we had to do some talking, but they're in a safe home and hopefully they can be used now and preserved. Thanksgiving hours, a little bit different. We're looking at our current schedule, and normally we close at 5 o'clock on the night before a holiday. When we looked at the schedules that we're keeping right now and saw that 2 of the 3 branches open would have been open only from 12 to 5 on that Wednesday, we thought it in the best interest of the patrons to actually be open from 9 to 4 at all of the branches on that day. So just so you know that it's on my head. I took the responsibility of saying, half a day when we're open so little as it is, we just need to make those full days, but we just made them earlier days. And we'll be looking at what's going to happen at Christmas probably next month, so we can manage to do the same thing and find an appropriate balance and not reduce our service to the public unnecessarily. And then I put in your packets the results of the survey from the Ohio Library Council of what public libraries are doing during COVID. I highlighted in yellow all of the things that Brown County Public Library is doing that came out of that statewide survey. So you can see we're keeping up with the Joneses, if you will. We are doing things that should be expected of libraries during this time. And then Al Norris, many of you may know him. He's the executive director of the ABCAP agency, has been doing that job for about 43 years. He announced his retirement, so that we'll see some changes in that organization, I'm sure. And then I guess I was fortunate to have been asked to serve on the review panel for the CARES money that the commissioners had designated for small businesses in Brown County. And we went through and reviewed all of those and made some decisions. And another project has fallen into my lap because of that, chamber related, but it does take me away from the library a little bit. And I won't bore you with it now, but let's just say we might have every business in Brown County becoming a chamber member so that we can help them through this COVID. And that's going to take a lot of work. So there we are.
Thank you, Lynn. On to committee reports. It says an appointment of nominating committee to present the slate at the November meeting.
So typically, the president calls for volunteers to be on the nominating committee, because next month is November and it's time to present a slate for officers. So I don't know if Kathleen is still here. If Kathleen wants to do that as president, or wants to turn that over to Mark, or to call for volunteers.
Mark, you want that?
Oh, what the heck?
That's what I thought. You're moving along so greatly.
Yes, with my pleasure.
Thank you.
So Mark, does that mean you are volunteering or you're going to appoint them?
Wasn't I involved last year? I think I was on the committee last year, and it's a matter of, we just we kind of move up a slot. Is that right? So,
Yes, if you want to continue doing that, but somebody would need
Yes.
to come and fill the other.
yes. I mean, I love being president. I love running meetings.
Wonderful.
Love it. Yep, I did it all day long today. So yes, I enjoy it. So it'd be my pleasure. Then who's behind me? Was that Karen? Because it was Kathleen, president, me, VP. It wasn't Barb, was it? Or was it?
I think it was
No,
Barb.
Karen.
It was Karen.
I think, it's Karen.
So Karen would need to move up to VP.
Right.
Okay.
So if you and somebody else wanted to talk with all of those people who are on the list now about whether they want to move up, and then
Yeah.
find someone else who wants to then step in and serve in another way. So I don't know, Tracy, is that something that you like doing or no?
Yeah. Mark and I did this last year.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah, we did.
The two of you want to just kibitz then and come back in November and tell us what you figured out?
Yes.
Sure.
Yay, Tracy.
Yay, Mark.
Okay, then we have next on the list is Personnel Committee, in-person / virtual ?
As I alluded to, the Personnel Committee really does have some things they need to discuss. And so if they're willing to get together, we can do any combination of virtual or in-person that anybody wants to do. And so I'm willing to send out a message to all of the members and say, hey, what would you like to do? And we'll figure it out.
That's fine.
Okay, thank you both. On to number 6, we need a motion to approve the 2021 calendar.
So by way of explanation, this looks a little bit different than the calendar you would normally see. And you also might have noticed that I did not include, for those of you who get paper, a purple sheet updating you on about the status of reopening. I effectively combined those things in this one document so that we can look at the progression of the branch's hours and do our best to make some decisions, which of course we can change as needed if conditions change. So what you see at the top is our current hours. And then the middle block is what the management team feels is the next step forward, is adding to those hours a half of a day on Saturday. And then the next step beyond that would actually be going 6 days a week, adding in, we had always anticipated after the levy passed that we would help to say thank you to our patrons by adding those closed days back in. And that's what that next schedule does. And you can see, I said sometime in 2021, because we really don't know, especially what the first quarter looks like. But it's something for you to all be thinking about, because instead of being 10 or 11 hour days open, we're looking at 7 or 8 hour days, providing both morning and afternoon, evening times, but standardizing the shifts as much as possible to help our patrons who never can remember when we're open anyway. But it's one of those things that helps to standardize, but give library service 6 days out of every week at every building. So that's where we'd like to see ourselves moving. But obviously there are staffing considerations and there are COVID considerations and all of that. So that's kind of the overall picture that this represents. So Questions, thoughts, managers you want to pipe up now about impact on buildings or things that you think are important to consider?
You know, Lynn, I think we're back in that situation where it's just going to be 1 month at a time. You know, we've got the second wave coming. You know, Hamilton County's back in the red, Claremont's back in the red. We have more red counties. Ohio is on the national news. It's just going to be 1 month at a time. It's going to be tough to plan anything, I think. Managers, anything? Is Heather there? I haven't heard Heather all night.
I thought I would keep quiet tonight, Mark. I was trying to behave. Plus, my dogs were barking and growling and wrestling.
Okay, I just want to make sure. That's all. Okay.
I'm here. Yes, I
Okay.
agree. And that was actually a conversation I had with 2 patrons in one day because they wanted to know, when are you just going to open the way you used to be open? And I had to point out, around us, if you look, everyone is turning red. The cases are going up. So we don't want to offer more and then have to take it away. And they were like, okay, I get it. I understand. I think, but we have to have that conversation when they ask us about it.
You know, the irony of it all is, we had a good plan and the plan's moving forward, and then the second wave hits, and now we don't know. Just have to keep our fingers crossed and, hope for the best, but we might be just going straight into a second wave. That's why I'm saying it's tough to plan something. We just have to go month by month and see how it is. Thank you, Heather. Okay, I need a motion to approve the calendar.
I'll move.
I make a motion to approve the calendar.
I'll second.
Okay.
Barb,
Yes.
Harold,
Yes.
Kathleen,
Yes.
Karen,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Tracy,
Yes.
and Sue.
Yes.
I need a motion to approve disposal of property.
Move.
I'll make that motion.
I'll
I'll
second.
second.
Oh, okay.
Barb,
Yes.
Harold,
Yes.
Kathleen,
Yes.
Karen,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Tracy,
Yes.
and Sue.
Yes.
I need a motion to approve the contract renewal with Nick's Lawn and Landscaping for groundskeeping services. We've got snow removal 2021 and lawn care 2021. Unfortunately, final numbers unavailable at the time of packet mailing.
And
Go ahead, I'm sorry, Lynn.
I was going to say, I do have updated numbers for you if you want them.
Yes, please.
Yes, so Monday I got an email from the contractor. The lawn care will stay as it is written on your agendas, so that it will be unchanged. Not only are those 2020 costs, I believe those are 2019 costs as well, so that hasn't changed significantly. However, the price of salt is going up, and so instead of it being $60 per plow or salt of sidewalks, it's going to be $70 for each of those services. So just $10 change in the pricing. And I will say that last year, of course, we don't know what the weather is going to hold, but last year we didn't pay a lot of snow removal costs. So.
All right, gang, I need a motion.
I'll move.
I'll second.
I'll second.
Barb,
Yes.
Harold,
Yes.
Kathleen,
Yes.
Karen,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Tracy,
Yes.
and Sue.
Yes.
I need a motion to approve the contract with ProKill for pest control services at all branches, 11/1/20 to 10/31/21 at 14,000, which is unchanged unbelievably from the 2017 costs.
I will make a
I
motion.
I didn't, sorry, who made the first motion?
Two, I think, and then Barb.
Okay. It got statically.
Yes, it
Barb?
did. Yes.
Harold,
Yes.
Kathleen,
Yes.
Karen,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Tracy,
Yes.
and Sue.
Yes.
I need a motion to approve the contract with Library Design Associates for the study room option number 2 at the Fayetteville branch at a cost of $18,238. Expenditure of CARES CRF funds facilitate social distancing within the branch.
So I'd like to give you a little background because numbers 10 and 11 kind of go together. So I know it's on separate pages or on the back of your page if you got a front and back copy of your agenda. So both of these are proposals for purchases from the CARES money. And I actually, okay, third strike against me. The number 11 shouldn't be CARES CRF 2801. It should be the CARES County 2802 fund, but it's still CARES money. At the time that I prepared the packets to go out, the management team had not yet determined its preferences about these projects, either the study room and or the lockers. The fact is, we do not have enough money to do both of those activities. And so I included them both on the agenda, just so you would know what we were thinking about and depending upon what the management team decided to do. It has been decided by the managers that they are all going to get lockers at their facilities, and that will eat up the entirety of the county money, and it will eat up the great portion of what is left of the state money. And so it is really up to the board whether they want to approve both in case something should happen and one of the contracts can't be fulfilled on time. But I want it to be known that we will obviously not spend more money than we have out of these two funds. We will not dip into our general fund for this because we would not be doing either of these projects if we had not gotten these grants. I mean, they're necessary things and we want them so we can better serve our patrons, but we can't just spend our regular operating money on them. So you really have the option of passing both of them or not passing either if you don't, aren't going to approve them, but we will not, we want to do the lockers and we are pretty confident that there's not going to be a hitch that will not allow us to fulfill that particular contract.
I have a couple questions. Would you describe the study room?
So Amber, if you're still there and have the ability to speak, you have actually, I think, seen more because you talked directly with Matt at Library Design.
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Maybe a little louder if you can.
Okay. I'm parked in my car, so I apologize if it sounds odd. If you can hear me, though, at least good enough to describe it. I met with Matt, and these study rooms are going to, it would just be one at this time, but we did get it like a cost proposal for two. They would be made of glass with heavy, I think like steel or aluminum, some sort of metal enforced corners, so that they would be protected if someone bumped into them. They would have a door, and then you would enter in, and there would be enough for like a 2 or 3 foot by maybe 2 foot table, and then our own chairs, and then a whiteboard that you could draw on. The area that I gave library design that we could fit these study pods in was 20 feet by 6 feet. So they would be no bigger than that, but with only one pod, it would probably be like 6 feet by 10 feet or less than that. You know, it would be that kind of size room. So the purpose of them would be to allow a space for tutoring, for private meetings that couldn't be held in the meeting room, or that sort of thing. They're clear so that we can see them for security reasons and things like that. And they would be placed where they would be in view at the Fayetteville Library in the nonfiction adult stacks. And that's where we were planning on putting them. So that was just kind of an idea. At the Fayetteville Library, we do have a lot of inquiries about tutoring. We work really closely with the school, and that was one of the needs being considered when we were thinking about a study pod.
So Lynn, you're saying that we don't have the money, or grant money to do both projects, right?
That is correct. We do not. And from my perspective, I was looking at the, two things really. Are we trying to use the money as equitably as possible in each of our locations to support, our patrons everywhere? And the study pod, is significantly more expensive by itself than a set of lockers. But also the idea of, if we're going to provide outside lockers for that kind of extended service after hours and that kind of delivery, do we consider only doing it in a couple of locations and not having it at all of the locations? And so those were some of the other considerations that we were discussing when we came up with this.
Where would the lockers be placed?
Different places in, each building has slightly different entryway areas. They are outside lockers. And so the branch managers could best describe physically where they will be, but they will be relatively near front doors. There are a couple of our buildings, Mount Orb, for example, has the larger porch covering. And so the idea is to have it enough under that to help protect it from weather. It does have to be near enough to the building for electric to go to it. So that's also a consideration. And they are served by Wi-Fi, so we don't have to have hardwired internet to them. They run off of our building's Wi-Fi. Tanya has also been, doing a lot of work on this particular project. So beyond those kind of general descriptions, I might turn to her and say, okay, exactly what did they say about this thing or that thing? One of the things that I think is very important about the lockers themselves are that for the amount of money that we would spend to invest in the hardware itself, and then even in the ongoing, maintenance, to keep the software upgraded and that kind of thing, I can't, for the price of doing that every year, afford enough staff to keep the buildings open later hours on a consistent basis for patrons who would want to come after, whatever our closing is, to actually get materials. And so I see this as a way not just to serve or resolve the curbside issue and make it easier on our staff, our current staff, and our current situation of doing curbside, but also to extend the availability possibility of getting resources to those who are outside the area. And hey, I can't get there until, 5 o'clock on a Saturday or 8 o'clock on a Friday night or whatever. I think that overall we would serve more people with that. But I also, I'm the first one to have said, well, maybe not the first, but, since we did our last kind of open houses after, I think, our 2014 levy, or maybe it was even the 2009, and when people were talking about we don't have quiet places in the library, I'd love to see us be able to provide that in every one of our buildings, a place where people can go and shut the door and have some of that dedicated space, because our meeting rooms to this point have been very busy and very active. I could argue for either. It's entirely up to the board, but the managers did all agree to go the way of the lockers without any, real resentment or feeling they were being pushed into it. Am I correct in saying that, Amber?
Yes, I don't feel pressured. I told Lynn that I would be happy either or. We're always gonna at least ask for a study pod if we can. So yeah.
Amber, real quickly, can you tell me, I understand the sort of the glass type design around the walls. Is there anything on the ceiling of it, or does it go to the ceiling?
That's a good question. It does not go to the ceiling, so that ventilation would appropriately flow through the rooms. That way our current HVAC and all of that would still apply to the rooms. So they're not 100% soundproof because of that, but there is a buffer, and it would still be a more private place than what we currently can offer.
Okay, I want to toss in that I've had some experience with that kind of a setup in a library before, and they found themselves looking for people to come in and do some sound reduction, noise reduction things in and around that area, because the sound actually amplifies up against the ceiling. I'm not suggesting the answer is no, because I think the pods are really cool and will be a great idea to have, but consider that as you proceed. If you ever intend to go for it again, get some information about that.
I think that's good information. I will say that, it was library's design for them not going to the ceiling. So I'm sure there are other options in the future, if we go forward with that, but I appreciate that.
I think it's pretty standard to have them not go to the ceiling. I think that's the normal way. So I don't know that they would come up with anything different, but you might want to consider discussing noise reduction around the area, like as the sound travels up from the glass up to the ceiling, and find maybe some tiles or something that could be put up there to help with the noise. That's all.
The next question I have was, would the lockers replace the current curbside service then?
I could see that happening. I think that there may be some instances where staff would still want to go out and deliver in person. Managers, you can speak more directly to that. I'm just kind of making some extrapolations and assumptions based upon what I have heard recently. So do you see, managers, you don't see the lockers completely taking over curbside, but maybe primarily?
I think it depends on our patrons. We have a lot of patrons that still want to see us even as we take it and wave from outside. But we also have those that I feel like may be intimidated by the lockers, some of our older patrons. So I think us still being able to assist them by taking the materials out. But I think primarily it's going to be great for like early in the morning, those that want to come first thing, or later, especially after hours. I think it's going to be a great service for those that always, may say, you just don't have the hours that I need. and we can't be open 24/7. But this gives us the ability
So
to
you could,
open 24/7, almost.
so you could give the patron the option of using the locker or in-person pickup.
I suspect that as with any kind of our services, even the inside ones, there are those patrons who want to be guided and helped along the way, and our staff know who they need to encourage to perform some self-help kinds of activities and self-service kinds of activities. So yeah, I would say that's probably going to be a case-by-case basis.
How do they get access to the locker? Is it a key, a password, or what?
Tanya can talk about this because she had the training directly from the reps.
So it's very easy. Once we put their things into the locker, it automatically sends them an email. In that email, they have a code. They can either walk up to the machine, key in their code that they had in that email, or they can have their phone that will have a barcode on it, on that email. They just scan it and the locker pops open. It's literally so easy. It takes seconds to do. It's not even minutes for the staff to program. It's literally seconds. You just key in a couple things. You hold the books up there, it scans them, the locker pops open, you put them in there and close it, and an email is sent.
So you
And
don't
once the
anticipate a big learning curve then?
Pardon?
You don't anticipate a big learning curve?
No, it's very, very simple. And that was one thing that we really looked for, was something that was not going to be cumbersome to the staff or to patrons. And I was really, really happy with this system and how easy it is. They've really worked on it. They work with other libraries already, so they have feedback and they've tweaked it along the way. So we're not, the first ones, the guinea pigs. They've already been working on this to improve the system.
If it's time to do that, I would move that we do the locker project and hold the other one for a future date.
I'll second.
Barbara,
Yes.
Harold,
Yes.
Kathleen,
Yes.
Karen,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Tracy,
Yes.
and Sue.
Yes.
I'd add that I understand the desire for study modules, but I just think maybe the timing is not right for that right now.
Okay, thank you, Harold. Now we need a motion to enter executive session to consider the employment of public employees.
I'll second.
Barb,
Yes.
Harold,
Yes.
Kathleen,
Yes.
Karen,
Yeah.
Mark,
Yes.
Tracy,
Yes.
and Sue.
Yes.
Managers, I thank you so much for being here and talking and telling them all about what we're doing. And I will turn off YouTube now so that